Alright, so this is my temporary background for now. It's just the lovely wall I painted. Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing bearded dragon myths debunked. Myths are false facts that are given out by people. I don't even know if that's the real definition, but basically they're facts given out about bearded dragons that are secretly false. So I'm going to go over those facts today, and yeah, let's get into the video. The first bearded dragon myth is bearded dragons can easily spread salmonella. Now this is false. I know before you buy a bearded dragon, most commonly in pet stores they make you sign a contract stating if you get salmonella, it's not their problem. Well, I can assure you the only way you can get salmonella is through the feces of a bearded dragon. You cannot get salmonella from them any other way. So unless you're sitting there, you know, touching their fecal matter and not washing your hands after, you are not going to contract salmonella. So as you should, wash your hands after picking up your bearded dragon's poop and you should be good to go. The next bearded dragon myth is that bearded dragons are stinky. This is also false. Bearded dragons are only stinky if you do not pick up after them. The only thing that smells with a bearded dragon is their poop, of course. They don't really give off a natural body odor. They kind of just smell like, I don't know, Fitz usually smells like pretzels, but unless you don't clean up their poop, then yes, their tank will be very smelly and even they can pick up that smell themselves. So make sure you always clean up their poop if they poop in their tank. The next myth is bearded dragons are scary and aggressive. Now this is also false. Unless you're bringing your bearded dragon up aggressively, then this will not happen. The only way a bearded dragon will be brought up aggressive is if they were neglected as a juvenile or mishandled. So if you raise your bearded dragon up and you care for them and treat them like you should, then they will be social and lovable companions. The next myth is bearded dragons are expensive. This is also somewhat false because when you first buy your bearded dragon, I got Fitz and all of her stuff for $300 to $400 when I first bought her. That part is expensive, yes. Well, it can be unless you like reuse stuff or like, you know, buy stuff for cheaper online, then you're good. But for the most part, they can be pretty expensive when you first buy them. But after you buy all the stuff, when you get your bearded dragon, they are not much money at all. All you're really going to be spending money on is food weekly and then lights every 6 months. So you want to change your UVB light and your heat lamp. And if you use a nighttime lamp, you want to change that every 6 months. Another myth is bearded dragons are picky eaters. Now I did read this somewhere, but that is definitely controversial. If you raise your bearded dragon up on a strict diet, like I did, then your bearded dragon's not going to want to eat anything but that strict diet you kept them on. I kept Fitz specifically on collard greens her whole life and peppers and carrots and like occasionally blueberries and strawberries and stuff like that. So I really didn't give her that wide of a variety. She sometimes had mustard greens, but she will absolutely only eat collard greens and mustard greens. She doesn't like kale. She likes arugula, however you pronounce it. She likes those too, but you know, she's not really for the variety. She likes her stick-to diet. If you raise them and you put a variety in their diet as they're younger, no, they will not be picky eaters at all. They'll pretty much eat whatever vegetable you put in front of them. So that is controversial. The next myth about bearded dragons is sand is bad for your bearded dragons. Now this is the most controversial topic in the bearded dragon community. This is controversial though. So sand is bad to ingest for a bearded dragon, and even calci-sam. They can say calci-sam is safe to digest and they'll digest it, you know, and it'll be fine and it won't cause impaction, but that is false. If a bearded dragon ingests sand, then it can cause impaction. And impaction is when the sand gets stuck in your bearded dragon's digestive tract and it can block up the passing food and it enables them to use the bathroom and it can eventually, sadly, kill them. It is controversial because if you're feeding your bearded dragon on a food bowl, this can be much safer. Now, I've heard of a lot of people using sand for their bearded dragons, but they just have a specific food bowl in like the corner where they eat off of. And I know bearded dragons, you know, lick their environment when they're walking around, but I highly doubt they'll lick enough to actually ingest enough sand to possibly kill them. I also heard sand was bad because when they go to the bathroom, the urates and stuff get trapped into the sand and you really can't get it all out. And the fumes are toxic and stuff like that. So it all depends on how well you are at upkeeping the sand and their substrate. So if you have sand and it works for you, that's great. If you want to try, you obviously have to be kind of more advanced in the substrate just to ensure that your bearded dragon does not get sick or impacted. The next myth is when bearded dragons are dark, they are always stressed. This is a false myth. Bearded dragons can also get dark because they are simply going through, I hope I use this term correctly, homeostasis. So basically they are adapting to their temperature. That's definitely not the right concern. Well, I should go back to like 7th grade. Basically, bearded dragons will get darker to absorb heat. So if your bearded dragon is cold, you can easily tell if they're dark. Dark does mean they're stressed, but sometimes it can also mean that they are trying to absorb more heat. As you guys know, the color black absorbs heat quicker, so that's why the bearded dragons turn a darker color so they can get all that heat in because they're cold. I love this myth. You need to wait several weeks to hold your bearded dragon when you first get them. This is false, okay? I love to debate with people on this topic because some people, I know on one of those videos, everyone's like, why did you hold Fitz when you first got her? You need to wait at least 2 weeks. No, you don't. Fitz turned out just fine. She was never stressed, whatever when I held her. You do not need to wait 2 weeks or several days to hold them. I actually don't recommend that at all. If you want your bearded dragon to be more sociable, it's better off to start them off sociable. So I recommend taking them out when you first get them, let them explore, put them in their tank for maybe 3 hours and take them out again for like 10 or 20 minutes. That's exactly what I did for Fitz. I took her out every day since I got her for about like 10 to 30 minutes and then increased as the days have went on. So now I take her out for about an hour. Of course, there are some precautions you should take. So if they become very stressed or start hissing at you, I definitely recommend putting in their tank because there is that chance that a bearded dragon can get very stressed out in their new environment. But the chances of that happening are very slim, and if you want them to adjust their environment more, then I definitely recommend taking them out. I did that with Fitz, and I know a lot of people have done that with their bearded dragons. Fitz was traumatized as a baby. If you guys know me, a bib hour, she was holding Fitz, and she never really held a lizard before, and she got startled, and Fitz ended up flying in the air. So I guess you could say Fitz was pretty much used to me the first day I got her. I just believe waiting to hold them like a few weeks is kind of like a waste of time, and like you could be using that time to get them acquainted to their environment. I wouldn't recommend letting them hide in the corner or hide in their tank because then they're going to get used to that. And especially if you want your bearded dragon to be sociable, I do not recommend waiting. The next myth is bearded dragons can be housed together. So this is also controversial. Usually if you're going to house two bearded dragons together, it's usually a male and a female or a female and a female. Because females are less territorial. Well, I mean, all bearded dragons are territorial, don't get me wrong. But the females tend to be less territorial than the males. I've seen people raise bearded dragons together in a tank, male, female, even male and female together successfully. You just need a large tank. But if you're putting two adults together, or even like two teen bearded dragons, the chances of them attacking each other for territorial purposes are pretty big. So if you're gonna put house two bearded dragons together, make sure they have tons of room to get away from each other and you raise them as juveniles. I mean, I don't really recommend this, but I've seen a lot of people do this successfully and their bearded dragons are like best friends. And even if you do raise them from babies up together, there still is a risk that they could turn territorial at any time, so this is completely at your own risk. I'm not recommending this. The next myth is bearded dragons can absorb water through their skin. I didn't know this, okay? My mind was blown. I thought, you know, my bearded dragon, if I just pour some water on her, she'll be hydrated. No, no, no. This is not the case. Bearded dragons can only absorb water through the vent in their tail, so basically their hiney, and through their mouth. So when you're giving, it's great to give them a bath to keep them hydrated because they're using their vent and their mouth to intake that water. Just putting water on top of them and spraying them isn't really doing much for them, but giving them a shower. The last myth of the bearded dragon society is you should mist your bearded dragons down daily or every other day. Now, I was told this by a pet store employee, and I'm sure a lot of you were too. This is not the case at all. Bearded dragons are desert animals, so they do not like any humid, tropical climate at all. If you want to mist your bearded dragon down, sure, you can do it, but make sure it's outside of the tank. Better yet, don't even do that. Just give them a bath so they can, you know, get it through the vent or their mouth. All misting the tank down will do is cause humidity in their tank, which they will not appreciate. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely love making it because I did want to do this first instead of doing how to know if your bearded dragon is happy, but I forgot to put that on the poll on my Instagram. So this is my second video, and I hope you all have enjoyed the lighting lately. You know, you can see like more detail, and I can actually film at nighttime. So hopefully the videos will be on schedule this time. So anyway, thank you guys for watching and stay tuned for the next video. And if you have a bearded dragon myth I did not state yet, please leave that down below. I would love to learn.